117 teams to go on my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. We're on to our final team in the SEC, the top team in the SEC, and presumably one of the best two teams in the country coming into 2022. You guys know them well. It's the Alabama Crimson Tide. Last year, made yet another national championship game, only to fall up short to their conference foe in the Georgia Bulldogs. But this Alabama team returns a lot of talent, including a Heisman Trophy winner from last year and one of the best pass rushers of our generation. And we'll get there and talk about him. So will Alabama maybe do a little more than they did last year and win a national championship, or will Alabama yet again come up just short of a national title in 2022? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nick. Welcome back to my channel. And I'm doing all 131 teams this college football offseason, which means I'm doing your favorite team. So hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you guys know when your favorite team gets uploaded. And if this goes out to Alabama fans in this video, but to all fans in general who watch my videos, you guys are going to know a lot more about your favorite team than I will. So if you feel like I missed something, got something wrong, you want to add something to the video, anything like that, please leave it in the comment section down below. That would be greatly appreciated. But other than that, guys, let's go ahead and get into my predictions for what the Alabama Crimson Tide are going to do in 2022. They are my top-ranked team in the SEC, and it comes to no surprise with the talent that is on this team. You see them number 1 or number 2 in every single top 25 poll out there. When you look at the Alabama Crimson Tide season last year, it was really, really good. Again, and that's nothing new to Alabama fans. This was a very, very good football team last year. SEC champions in the SEC championship game once again, but just couldn't get it done in the national title game against the Georgia team that I thought absolutely deserved it last year. Alabama, statistically, in terms of yards per game, were the second best offense in the SEC, 488 yards per game with around 40 points per game. They were the best scoring offense in the SEC. They're also the second best defense in the SEC when you look at yards per game, with around 306 yards per game allowed and 20 points per game allowed on the defensive side of the ball. For Coach Nick Saban and company, who leaves and who comes back? We're going to find that out now. Brian Robinson, the leading rusher off this team, is gone. 1,343 yards and 14 touchdowns for Brian Robinson last year. You're also losing your lead wide receiver just below him in Jamison Williams. 79 catches for 1,572 yards and 15 touchdowns last year. Of course, the former Ohio State prospect. Imagine if he was still on Ohio State having that good of a season on that team last year. That just would have been crazy. But anyway, Jamison Williams, he's gone. Also, another 1,000-yard wide receiver, also gone. John Mechie, 1,142 yards on 96 catches, 8 touchdowns for him as well. You got Slade Bolden and G. Hall. I apologize if I mispronounced names, but Hall, Bolden, both of them are gone off this team, as well as his tight end Jaleel Billingsley and offensive lineman Evan Neal. On the defensive side of the ball, you lose defensive lineman Mathis and Ray, linebackers Christian Harris, Chris Allen, and Drew Sanders. And on the defensive back side of things, Jalen Armour Davis, Josh Jobe, and Daniel Wright. Jalen Armour Davis had 3 picks on this Alabama team last year, one of 3 players with 3 picks on this Alabama team last year. We'll talk about the other 2 here in a little bit. But with what they have coming back, we got to start off with Bryce Young, right? This is a guy that won the Heisman last year, was phenomenal last year, and very well could be the number 1 pick off the board come the 2023 NFL Draft. 4,872 yards, 47 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions last year for Bryce Young. That's absolutely crazy. They get a nice boost at running back from the transfer portal in former Georgia Tech prospect Jahmyr Gibbs. Also, Jace McClellan coming back for this rush attack as well. Had 191 yards and a rush touchdown last year. In terms of the wide receiver position, you got Ja'Cory Brooks coming back. You also got your tight end Cameron Latou coming back there as well. 410 yards, 8 catches. He was the 3rd most targeted guy on that roster last year. But all the top 5 targets for Alabama's wide receiver are gone. And that kind of feels like Alabama every year when we get here is just feel like, they're one position away. They're one position away from winning the whole thing, from being, there in the playoff and national title favorites. Well, and that position this year was probably wide receiver. They went and got him. Jermaine Burton coming over from Georgia. That's a phenomenal talent. That's just huge. That's a great talent brought in by Alabama. And then Tyler Harrell, an absolute speedster or used to play for the Louisville Cardinal. And wouldn't surprise me at all if he goes to the NFL Combine to see him break the 40 record. I mean, he is blazing fast. I already talked about Cameron Latou, J.C. Latham, Emil Ekiyor, a couple offensive linemen to watch as well. On the defensive side of things, defensive linemen like DJ Dale, Byron Young. Linebackers like Dallas Turner, Henry To'oTo'o, who was their leading tackler last year with 111 tackles, 4 sacks on the year as well. And a couple guys that had 3 interceptions last year, DeMarco Helms, Jordan Battle, back in the defensive back group. You also got guys like Malachi Moore and Eli Ricks coming over from LSU. But notice there's one guy I still haven't talked about, and he also very well could be the number 1 quarterback off the board in 2023, or for the 2023 NFL Draft, and that is Will Anderson. He's one of, if not the best pass rusher I think I've seen in my years of watching football. He is amazing. What a talent. He had 101 tackles, 17 and a half sacks last year, 3 passes defended, a lot of batted passes down at the line as well. He's just a phenomenal talent and very well could be the best player in the country. Let's look at this schedule now for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and there are a couple interesting games that pop out at you on the schedule, but we'll get there here in a little bit. For the Alabama Crimson Tide, non-conference games, you play Utah State, ULM, and Austin, PA. Should be able to get wins there, but look at that game against Texas. You can't count out the Longhorns there in that one, even though Bama probably figures to be heavy favorites coming into that game anyway. Home games for Alabama and SEC play, you got Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, and the Iron Bowl against Auburn, and games on the road, Ole Miss, LSU, Arkansas, and Tennessee from the SEC East. So, talking about these games a little bit. Non-conference games don't really interest me that much. Utah State, a team that, they won their conference last year. Probably won't give Alabama much of a fight, but it's maybe a resume booster just by like that much for Alabama because they won their conference last year, especially if they can win their conference again this year. And then for Texas. Texas is a team that is getting Hall, that is getting that wide receiver over from Alabama. Hall, the guy you see right next to Brian Robinson, going over to play for the Texas Longhorns. Wouldn't you know it, they have Alabama on the schedule. Wouldn't be surprised if he has a big game there. But Texas got to figure out who that quarterback is, whether it's Hudson Card, whether it's Quinn Ewers, who recently went back to Texas after going to Ohio State for a year, then now transferred back to Texas. That's going to be a very interesting game there. Some other games on the road here for Alabama. On the road against Arkansas. That's a very interesting game there as well. Arkansas figures to be trying to take, again, another step in the right direction this year under Sam Pittman. Sam Pittman's doing phenomenal things with that Arkansas program. But that's a hard game for Arkansas to win. But also Bama's got to go on the road here. And might they possibly be looking ahead to that game against Texas A&M on October 8th? We will see. We will see. Alabama, though, Nick Saban usually doesn't let his teams look ahead. But again, you never know. College football can work its spooky magic. Then you got home game here against Texas A&M. This game is going to be a whole lot of fun, especially with the drama and everything that has been happening here within the past month between those two head coaches. That game's just going to be a whole lot of fun between two very, very talented football teams. Games on the road that maybe worry me a little bit. On the road against Tennessee, although I feel like Bama's going to be pretty hefty favorites. Should be able to win that one there as well. But on the road against LSU, that's a team that has a lot of question marks coming into this year. How does Brian Kelly fit in? How can LSU bounce back from 2 really abysmal seasons? And I think they absolutely can. They just got to be able to get some things going right. And Ole Miss figures to be another really good football team yet again this year. Other interesting home games against Mississippi State and Auburn as well. Of course, fans in Starkville expecting that team to take the next step. And then it's the Iron Bowl, one of the best rivalries in all of college football. I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do more percentage-based outlook to help me predict the team's record. If the game is in red, probably not going to win. If the game is in orange, you're still probably not going to win. But, hey, upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or high upset potential games. Yellow-green are the games where You're probably going to win, but you should watch out for the team on the other side of the ball. In games in green, you should probably win the game. So 4 games in green, that's Austin Peay, Utah State, ULM, and Vanderbilt. The games in yellow-green, again, watch out for teams like Mississippi State and Auburn and Tennessee. Those are going to be very tricky teams to play. Of course, Auburn's always a tricky team to play, but Tennessee figures to be really solid, and you got to play them on the road, Bama fans. And for Mississippi State, again, these are fans in Starkville, and especially players and coaches on this team, feel like that team should be able to take the next step this year. So watch out for the Bulldogs. And then, again, I've already talked about the game against Texas. It depends on who that starting quarterback is. And, again, tough environment to play in. Can Texas take that next step this year as well? We will see. In terms of all the games in yellow on the schedule, on the road against Arkansas, although you probably could end up putting that game in yellow-green, probably could also end up putting that LSU game in yellow-green there as well. As those are 2 games that, again, they're just tricky environments against teams that figure to be bringing a lot of energy into the game against Alabama. It's Alabama. You're always going to get the best from the team on the other side of the football. It's just the way the world works. Alabama's a really good football team, and you're going to want to bring your best so that you can try to beat a really, really good football team. That's what Arkansas and LSU are going to do. LSU's got a lot of question marks coming into this year, though. How does Brian Kelly fit? Who's going to be the starting quarterback there? How do the transfers work out? There's a whole lot of things that go on at LSU, but I imagine they have it all figured out by the time that Alabama rolls into town. Ole Miss and Texas A&M, though, are the 2 games that I'm really highlighting on the schedule. Because if Alabama's going to pick up a loss somewhere, I do feel like more likely than not it's going to be to one of those 2 games. Against Texas A&M, that's going to be a hell of a game this year, especially with all the added drama and rat poison that has been added into that game. Oh, man. Oh, man. I mean, just sit back and watch, college football fans. I don't need to say any more about that game. Just sit back and watch. And then the game against Ole Miss, they did as well as anyone in the transfer portal, so we'll see what comes of that Ole Miss game there as well. But Alabama's got to watch out for an Ole Miss team that has one of, if not the best offenses in the SEC, one of the best offenses in the country, and also that defense continuing to take steps up. But for Alabama in 2022, I'm not giving out undefeated seasons lightly. You saw that earlier today with Georgia. I think Georgia's going to slip up somewhere. I just don't think Georgia's as talented of a team as they were last year, but again, only by a little bit. But I think college football is going to work their magic against Georgia. I don't think that way for Alabama. This Alabama team, I think, is going to be ridiculous. I think they're going to be crazy, fun to watch. I think they're going to play a really, really good brand of football, and this possibly could be one of, if not Nick Saban's best team. It definitely can compare to that 2020 season that Bama had when they just rolled through everyone, including Ohio State in the national championship game, including Notre Dame in their playoff semifinal, even the SEC championship game as well. Bama has got an undefeated, perfect record from me. The talent that's on this team is ridiculous. It's stupid. Bryce Young coming back as that quarterback. Jahmyr Gibbs is a prime running back transfer. You're returning a lot of leading tacklers. That wide receiver core gets so many pieces from the portal. The defensive backs should be really good. Find a flaw with this Alabama team. I dare you. I dare you to find a flaw with this Alabama team. You're going to have to get really nitpicky to find one. I got Bama going to a perfect 12-0 and another college football playoff berth in 2022. Possibly, again, I'll release my playoff predictions later, but you figure Alabama's going to be in there with a record of 12-0. So that is my predictions for the Alabama Crimson Tide in 2022. Guys, be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and remember to play hard. To tailgate harder. The next video will be SEC standings, and then on to the Big Ten. Goodbye.